54-year-old man is behind bars for fatally beating his 72-year-old roommate inside a boarding house during an altercation. On the night of Wednesday, the 31st of January, authorities responded to a home at 27300 Waldorf Street in Roseville, Michigan on reports of an assault. When officers arrived, they entered the residence and found a man unresponsive with head trauma. He was unable to be saved and was pronounced dead at the scene. The victim was identified as 72-year-old Dale Mitchell. Investigators learnt that Dale's roommate, 54-year-old Mark Joseph Newsome, got into an argument with Dale over food from Taco Bell. When the dispute escalated and turned physical, authorities said that Mark punched Dale in the head multiple times and Dale died from the injuries. Mark was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and is held at the Makah County Jail without bond. Makah County prosecutor Pete Lucido said, "If we've come to grips with life about fighting and killing someone over a taco or food itself, there's got to be more to life than that. It would have been a lot easier to walk away," he said. The investigation into the matter continues. A 22-year-old man has been arrested after fatally shooting a 37-year-old child predator last year. At around 3:50 a.m. on the 29th of May 2023, authorities responded to a report of an unresponsive man found in a ditch next to Monty Beach Park, located in the 900 block of North Wood Street in Houston, Texas. When officers arrived, they found the man with multiple gunshot wounds to his torso, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. The victim was identified as 37-year-old Sean Connery Showers. Investigators said they found Sean's phone under his body, and he had planned to meet up with someone at Monty Beach Park using the kick-up. Investigators obtained video footage of a vehicle slowly approaching Sean while he walked along the roadway. The suspect in the car then fired a string of rapid gunshots into Sean's body before fleeing the scene. Authorities said that 22-year-old James Lewis Spencer's phone was tracked to and from the murder location. On Wednesday the 31st of January, 8 months after the shooting, James was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. He's held at the Harris County Jail on a $250,000 bond. Authorities said that James pretended to be a minor online and planned to meet with Sean at the park under the guise of a sexual arrangement. Police said that James admitted to being at the murder location a few times. He said he owned the phone number that communicated with Sean and confessed to fatally shooting Sean. Investigators said that James believed that law enforcement officials weren't doing enough to keep child predators in prison, and he wanted to take matters into his own hands and hurt them. In 2009, Sean pleaded guilty to possessing child porn. He was sentenced to 30 months in prison, and then 3 years in 2019 for failing to register as a sex offender. The investigation into the matter continues. A man and 2 women are behind bars for blowing fentanyl smoke in the face of a newborn to stop her crying. 33-year-old Robert Mason, 32-year-old Jennifer Trevino, and 22-year-old Aracely Rocha are behind bars on multiple charges of abuse. On Thursday the 25th of January, the suspects were initially pulled over by deputies for littering in front of the Frontier Inn and Suites Hotel, located at 3210 Pine Street in Abilene, Texas, where they were staying. While performing the traffic stop, deputies observed 4 adults and a 19-day-old baby, as well as 56 fentanyl pills in the vehicle, with some strewn in the baby's diaper bag, smoking pipes and straws used for smoking. Authorities said that 4 adults as well as 4 children all lived in 2 adjoining rooms at the hotel. During a search of their hotel rooms, a cloud of smoke came out. Due to the thickness of the smoke, deputies put on breathing masks. Authorities learnt that the trio had been smoking fentanyl in the presence of the 4 children, and intentionally blew fentanyl smoke into the baby's face to pacify her cries over the past several days. Investigators said that the 4th person was aware of the other 3 suspects smoking fentanyl in the presence of the children, but took no action to prevent it. Officers found the baby was having trouble breathing when they arrived, and she was rushed to the emergency room at the Hendrick Medical Center, where the other 3 children were also examined. Child Protective Services then took custody of the children. The trio were arrested and charged with 4 counts of endangering a child. Robert also faces an additional charge of obstruction retaliation, and Aracely is additionally charged with possession of fentanyl and amphetamine. They've been held at the Taylor County Jail on bonds totaling over $100,000 each. The 4th adult has not been identified, and it's unclear what charges that person faces. The investigation into the matter continues. A 38-year-old sex offender has been fatally shot by law enforcement after he kidnapped an 11-year-old girl from Knox County, Tennessee. On the evening of the 1st of February, The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation issued an endangered child alert for Aubriauna Mays, who went missing from her Knoxville home and was last seen on the night of Tuesday the 30th of January. Upon further investigation, authorities identified 38-year-old Edward Ahrens as a person of interest, and he was believed to be traveling to Catoosa, Georgia with the girl. Authorities concentrated their search near the Tennessee-Georgia state line late Thursday night, and at just after 1 a.m. on Friday, they located Edward on Interstate 75 South, near East Ridge exit, still in Tennessee, just before crossing into Georgia. Police initiated a pursuit, chasing Edward as he took exit 1 in East Ridge and blocked all 4 sides of his vehicle at the intersection of US Highway 41 and Ringgold Road. Officers said they could see the missing girl in the front passenger seat. An encounter ensued, during which Edward refused to comply with officer commands to surrender and hit several officers who got out on foot with his vehicle. As a result, at least 4 officers fired their weapons into the vehicle, striking Edward, who subsequently died. Aubriauna was found safe and unharmed, and the 3 responding law enforcement officers struck by the car were treated at the scene for non-life-threatening injuries. Authorities said that the 4 officers involved in the shooting have been placed on administrative leave for the investigation. Catoosa County Sheriff Gary Sisk said the incident was a case of a young child being lured by a sexual predator through social media that could have ended a young girl's life. Catoosa County officials said that Edward initially pleaded guilty in 2003 to sexual exploitation of children, aggravated assault, and obstruction of justice, and was sentenced to 10 years probation. In 2008, he was convicted on 9 counts of sexual exploitation of children and was sentenced to 20 years in prison, but only served 10 years before his release. He was required to register as a sex offender. Police were investigating a homicide after a 20-year-old man was fatally shot. At just before 7 p.m. on Friday, the 2nd of February, authorities responded to the Family Dollar store at 5425 Riverdale Road in Atlanta, Georgia, on reports of a person shot. When officers arrived, they found a man deceased with a gunshot wound. The victim was identified as 20-year-old Lem Johnson. Lem's family said that Lem was dropped off at the store by his mother. Moments later, someone walked into the store and shot him. Investigators said the shooting suspect fled the scene in a dark-coloured SUV. No arrests have been made to date, and the motive of the killing is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. A 27-year-old man will spend the next few decades behind bars for fatally beating and stabbing an elderly woman before setting a mobile home on fire in 2022. On Thursday the 1st of February 2024, the Tulare County Superior Court in California sentenced Anthony Barra to life in prison after he pleaded no contest in September 2023 to first-degree murder with a special allegation of use of a deadly weapon and felony elder abuse resulting in death. He must serve at least 29 years before being considered for parole. At around 6:15 a.m. on the 20th of January 2022, authorities responded to a trailer home engulfed in flames at the Royal Palms Estates, located at 560 West Pleasant Avenue in Tulare, California. Neighbors told officers that the trailer belonged to 74-year-old Carol Hendon. Fire emergency personnel located Carol deceased in the residence and noted a strong odor of gasoline. The victim's car was parked in the carport with the trunk open. An autopsy showed Carol had been severely beaten and stabbed and was dead before the fire. Through investigation and witness accounts, officers learned that a man dressed in dark clothing was seen in the victim's carport area about 45 minutes earlier. Video surveillance at the time of the fire also showed the man entering and leaving the trailer, igniting and reigniting the blaze. Anthony was arrested the next day when officers were called to a store and report of a man loitering and making lewd comments. Authorities said that Anthony had broken into a vehicle and police arrested him on suspicion of burglary. While searching his belongings, authorities found lighters and a red gas can in his possession. He was initially held on charges of burglary, resisting an officer and probation violation. During the investigation, police identified the man in the surveillance footage as Anthony Barra and found his DNA in the victim's car. Later, while questioned by detectives, Anthony implicated himself by providing intimate details about Carol's death. Prosecutors initially charged Anthony with first-degree murder, aggravated arson, torture, and destroying or concealing evidence. Police also suspected Anthony had ignited a series of dumpster fires. While in custody, Anthony assaulted correctional deputies in 2 separate cases in 2022 and 2023. Anthony had previously been convicted of burglary and vandalism. A 19-year-old man is behind bars for fatally shooting an 18-year-old man. At around 5:55 p.m. on Thursday the 1st of February, authorities responded to an alley behind Janikin & Sons Mortuary in Knoxville, Tennessee, and reports of shots fired. When officers arrived, they found a man in a critical condition with a gunshot wound. Medics transported him to the University of Tennessee Medical Center, where he later died. The victim was identified as Apollo Cannida. Homicide unit detectives quickly developed leads and identified 19-year-old Makah Logan as a suspect. Authorities said that the victim and the suspect were involved in a verbal dispute. At some point during that dispute, the suspect fired at the victim, striking him at least once, and then ran from the scene. Authorities have not disclosed what the argument was about. At around 10:50 p.m. that night, authorities went to Makah's home located less than a mile away on Kirkwood Street and took him into custody. Makah is charged with first-degree murder and is held at the Roger D. Wilson Detention Facility on a $500,000 bond. The investigation into the matter continues. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office in Florida has arrested a facilities technician for stealing materials from jail where he was employed. On Wednesday the 31st of January 2024, 45-year-old Rodgers Ruiz was arrested for unlawfully removing goods from a storage room within the Falkenberg Road jail. Following the removal, Rodgers transported the stolen items and sold them to a metal recycling company for profit. Upon investigation, detectives determined that the stolen goods amounted to approximately 210 pounds of copper and 183 pounds of yellow brass, estimated to be valued at more than $3,000. Sheriff Chad Chronister said this act of betrayal by one of our own employees isn't just about stealing goods, it's a violation of the very trust that binds this agency together. Know this, there's no room for deceit here. No one, absolutely no one will undermine our agency's dedication to serve and protect with integrity. Rodgers joined the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office in November of 2017 as a multi-trades worker and was promoted to facilities technician in January of 2020. Rodgers has been charged in dealing with stolen property, false information on a pawnbroker form, and grand theft. Authorities said that an additional facility technician has been suspended without pay due to a violation of agency policy. The investigation into the matter continues. A 24-year-old man is behind bars for fatally shooting a 26-year-old man. At around 1:25 a.m. on the 2nd of February, authorities responded to Norton's Riverside Bar and Grill at 16 Northeast 5th Street in Crystal River, Florida on reports of a shooting. When deputies arrived, they located a deceased man in the parking lot with several gunshot wounds. The victim was identified as 26-year-old Edward James Bennis, and his death was ruled a homicide. Witnesses stated that the suspect, 24-year-old Gabriel Hugh Trainor, had gotten into a minor altercation with another person inside the bar that eventually spilled out into the front patio. Edward, an employee at Norton's, yelled at them to stop, and Gabriel walked to his car. After several minutes, Edward returned outside and continued to argue with Gabriel, who'd armed himself with a handgun. As they continued to argue, Gabriel shot Edward multiple times, and he died from his injuries. Deputies took Gabriel into custody, and after an interview with detectives, he was charged with second-degree murder. He was booked into the Citrus County Detention Facility where he remains held without bond. Citrus County Sheriff Mike Prendergast said, "This is a tragic incident. My condolences go out to the family of James. Unfortunately, arguments often turn violent when alcohol is involved. Gabriel not only made the decision to take another man's life, but also endangered other citizens with his reckless discharge of a firearm. This behavior will not be tolerated in Citrus County, and we will work diligently with our partners in the 5th Judicial Circuit to ensure Gabriel is no longer a danger to our law-abiding citizens." A 37-year-old man is behind bars for fatally shooting his girlfriend during a domestic dispute. At 6:48 a.m. on Thursday the 1st of February, authorities responded to a home in the 7100 block of Battletown Road in Battletown, Kentucky after receiving a call that a person had been shot. The Meade County Sheriff's Department said the caller told dispatch, "Dad's gun went off and mother has been shot." When deputies arrived, they entered the home and found a deceased woman laying on the bed in the master bedroom with a single gunshot wound to the head. The woman was identified as Crystal Fletch. During the investigation, authorities determined that Crystal got into a verbal altercation with her boyfriend Derick Ford when he picked up an AR-15 rifle, pointed it at her and shot her in the left eye. causing her death. It's unclear what the argument was about. About 10 hours after the shooting, Derick was located about 7 miles away on the 500 block of Hillcrest Drive in Brandenburg, and he was taken into custody. He's charged with murder and was booked into the Meade County Jail on a $250,000 bond. The investigation into the matter continues,